and we're highlighting these for you today. As we gather, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we're currently on the grounds of the Coast Salish people and who have stewarded these lands and waters for generations into the past. Today, we're all working together for the future of our one world ocean and the surrounding communities. Our future, the future of the southern resident orcas, and the future of the Salish Sea are inextricably linked. Thank you to the Governor for forming the Orca Task Force, and to the working group and task force members for your hard work in developing the recommendations that served as the foundation for the bills that we'll hear about today. We're glad to see several of you here today. We also appreciate the leadership of the legislators who are sponsoring these vital steps in the legislative session in Olympia. It's clear that we must act with urgency and impact. We must come together this legislative session and put in place the recommended measures that will give our endangered southern resident orcas a real chance at recovery. We must also ensure that the funding is in place in the state budget to turn these into on-the-ground and on-the-water action. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Deborah Giles, research scientist with the University of Washington and the Science and Research Director for the local nonprofit Wild Orca. Dr. Giles.
Hi, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. And I've been honored for the last year to be a member of both the work group for vessels as well as the prey work group on the Governor's Task Force. So it's really exciting to see how far we've come with these bills. I've been studying the southern resident killer whales since 2005, but I actually fell in love with them more than 3 decades ago, amazingly, when I saw them off the west side of San Juan Island. We didn't know they were suffering at that point, but it's become abundantly clear to everybody around the world that these whales need help. A multi-year study of the nutritional and physiological and reproductive health of the southern residents, led by Sam Wasser and his team, including myself, found that nearly 70% of all pregnancies in this population are lost before the calf is born viable. There are many, many things that are limiting the growth of this population, from vessel presence and associated noise, toxic pollution going into and staying in the marine environment, the risk of oil spills, and the lack of quality and quantity prey for this population of animals. We are at a critical juncture in the state legislative process with 4 very important bills making their way through the legislature. All of these bills are critical to the southern resident killer whale protection and recovery, but we also need to pass the budgets that will fully support these bills. We need to find the money to support and really get going all shovel-ready projects that will protect and restore habitats critical to the entire food web of the southern residents. The toxics bill will help protect the health of humans, salmon, and the whales by keeping toxic chemicals out of the environment. And we need to fully fund DFW enforcement of new regulations in the vessel noise and disturbance bill to ensure that the whales have the space and the quiet they need to successfully forage for the few fish that are out there. With the 30th anniversary of the Exxon Valdez spill just recently passed on the 24th of March, we're reminded of the devastating impacts of a spill, and we simply cannot afford to risk that in this ecosystem. The toxics bill would lessen the impact, or lessen the potential for a catastrophic spill like that, which would really wipe out the whales and this ecosystem. We also really need to fund and support the process that brings together stakeholders and tribes to discuss the potential for the Snake River Dam removals to increase Chinook salmon. Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to stick around and answer questions about the science or research that's currently occurring with the whales. And we really need to get behind those bills getting passed. So contact your legislative aides, and let's make it happen. Thank you.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for coming today. My name is Brendan Flynn. I grew up reef netting in the San Juan Islands and still do. I also gill net in Puget Sound in the fall. I was on a reef net boat when I was under a year old and started curling, probably when I was in my early teens. And so over this span of time, I've watched what I would say is just a great lessening in life in the Salish Sea. I've watched many salmon runs that we used to fish disappear. The bait fish balls that we used to consistently see in the channel between Locust and Shaw are infrequent at best. And yeah, it's not the same place I remember as a child. And I guess over the years, there have been, I guess what I've seen is there have been a lot of people with a lot of really good ideas at fixing some of these problems. But when it comes down to it, we've never had the political will to find the funding to push these projects forward. And so I'd say this really is the first time I've ever seen a really solid chance to look at this problem in a holistic way, because we have issues with toxics. The vessel noise is an issue for the orcas, we know that. The threat of an oil spill in Puget Sound is unthinkable. This is not a pristine environment. Prince William Sound was, and it still struggles. If we spill oil here, it is absolutely game over. I participated in the Islands Oil Spill Association for over 20 years, and we're the first line of defense in the San Juan Islands. We're just a small group of volunteers with a few pieces, 1,000 feet of boom here, 1,000 feet of boom there. All we can do is guard one bay. Saving one bay doesn't matter when you lose the whole ecosystem. And so I really hope that we can get these, the oil bill funded, because, for years watched ATVs, articulated tug barges, travel through the straits with no escort, while you have tankers traveling with an escort. It's never made any sense. But yeah, I guess basically this entire package, I'm really hopeful that it gets funded. I hope the legislators can find a way to find funding for this, because if we just pick and choose certain pieces of this, it's not going to have nearly the impact that it would as a whole. I want to thank everybody that's served on the task force over the last year developing these recommendations for these bills. And I just really, really hope that the legislature can find a way to push these things through, because I honestly feel like if we don't do something now, we're not going to have much left in 10 or 15 years.
Good morning. I'm Will Hall, Mayor of the City of Shoreline, and I serve on the Board of Directors of the Association of Washington Cities, representing all 281 cities in the state of Washington. It was my honor to be appointed by Governor Inslee to serve on the ORCA Task Force, and I am so impressed with the hard work and dedication of such a diverse group of people over the past year to look for ways to protect and restore the orcas and the ecosystem that they depend on. We learned that there's no single action that can save these orcas on its own. It will take a number of actions by everyone involved to protect and restore this ecosystem. The federal government has a role in the recovery plan. Tribal governments have stepped up to the plate and taken amazing steps to try to protect salmon and orcas. At the local government level, we understand that we have a role as well. In the city of Shoreline, we've improved our stormwater management regulations even beyond what's required by our state permit to make sure that the water that flows through our city is healthy for fish and for whales. We're in the process of doing habitat restoration projects and removing barriers to fish so that the fish can spawn and provide food for the orcas. We're very excited that in June we'll be putting up a new sign at Richmond Beach Saltwater Park, which is on the whale trail, so that people know that they can safely and enjoyably watch the orcas from shore without needing to go out and disturb them on a boat. So local governments are deeply committed to these actions, and right now what's critically important is that the state of Washington steps up with its share, both with the bills to promote restoration and protection and the funding that's required. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No worries. Good morning. My name is Mindy Roberts, and I lead the Puget Sound program for Washington Environmental Council. And I also serve on the Orca Recovery Task Force, along with Will and Brendan, and many of you who are here today supporting this effort. Last November, the task force identified 36 actions needed for orca survival and recovery, and that list is long because the need is great. And as you heard, orcas face tremendous threats. The Environmental Priorities Coalition, which I am representing today, includes 23 leading environmental advocacy groups. And we believe that investing in a healthy and thriving environment benefits communities in every part of the state. Together, we identified orca emergency response as one of our top priorities for 2019. We have worked with legislators, we have testified in public hearings, we have provided the public with opportunities to weigh into their own senators and representatives as well. And the public right now is demanding action. Today, 4 strong policy bills are alive and they're moving through the legislature. And if enacted, these would set us on a far better path toward habitat protection for salmon and for small fish to increase food for orcas. Reducing vessel noise and disturbance will have an immediate benefit, quieting the waters for orcas, while reducing toxics and the threat of oil spills must be ramped up now for long-term recovery as these threats grow every day. The actions in these 4 bills are strongly supported by experts and scientists, organizations that have supported orca recovery for decades, and the public, but we need the legislature to pass all of them. A piecemeal approach will not be enough to help the orcas this year. However, none of these bills is a guarantee, and all face opposition. We are here today to urge the legislature to pass all 4 bills. In addition, we need the legislature to fund programs that implement the needed actions, and we must ensure that natural resource programs are funded sustainably. For more than 10 years now, natural resources programs at the state level have withstood steeper general fund cuts than any other area of state government, even though these programs represent less than 1% of the state general fund and only 2% of the state operating budget. So for our environmental laws to be implemented and enforced, natural resources programs must have secure funding that is stable and predictable now and into the future. So this year, the urgent orca situation underscores the need to fill funding gaps at the Department of Ecology, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and sister agencies to maintain and enhance protections. These programs benefit communities across our state. And every $1 million invested in watershed restoration creates 16 to 24 jobs and $2.5 million in total economic benefits. These are win-win projects that create good jobs in urban and in rural communities. They reduce pollution, they improve habitat, and they keep Washington a great place to live, to work, and to play. So let's be clear that today we're talking about what is needed for orcas, but those same actions will help people and communities as well. So more salmon means more salmon for everyone. Less toxic pollution, less toxic pollution for people, and decreasing risk of oil spills to protect our maritime industries. So yes, orcas need all of these, but people need them too. So to close, I just wanted to reflect that we realized that the best time to restore Puget Sound and to protect the orcas was frankly 30 years ago. The second best time is right now. And we absolutely cannot and we should not kick the can further down the road and defer solutions to future generations. So let's act on these today. Thank you. And I understand from Nick, our communications director, that what we will do is all of us will be available for questions. There's also a number of members of the Community Orca Task Force and the Vessel Work Group, as well as the subject matter experts for each of these bills. If media would like to talk about anything in particular, please, Nick, if you could wave your hand. Connect with Nick or ask any of us, and we would be happy to hook you up with the right people.